How's it going, my G's? It's Artifact, and today I've got a very demonic Mandolin Neurofunk bass played by our demon captain, as demonstrated on the thumbnail. And I thought I'd do a video again without much editing and without my face, because I was looking back on a few videos ago, and one of my most popular recent videos, I hadn't done any editing and my face wasn't even on it. So I think that you guys really resonate with my voice, my information, and actually just the music production. So it really saves me a lot of time. So I might go back to sort of doing some more tutorials like this, just full screening Logic, jumping straight into it. Anyway, I'm going to play this little bass that I've made, and I've made it using a mandolin sound, which sounds like this. And so I wanted this like sustained mandolin playing, and I've turned it into a rather demonic sound, which sounds a little bit like this, my G's. Pretty crunchy and tasty, if you don't mind me saying so. I started out trying to make a free preset for you guys, but then it got so good that I thought, no, I'm going to save this for my next preset pack. Which will be still a couple of weeks from now. But yeah, I'm going to save it for that. Anyway, let me just quickly, while I've got you here, demonic captain, mandolin bass. I come up with these names pretty randomly, to be fair. Well, it kind of makes sense because it's made from a mandolin. Anyway, let's get into the sound design. So, I had a mandolin sample, which I made from Spitfire Labs, because they've got a mandolin in their like free pack, and one of the modes is like a tremolo or something like that. So I just held down an E, and I just had to quickly sort of flex it and time it a little bit with my drums, so it sort of fits a bit nicer. So it kind of goes with the beat. But the idea is just to have a long sort of sustained texture to play with in Vital. So if we sort of reverse engineer everything, and it's quite simple patch in the way that there's not too many effects, not too many filters, and the combinations of the oscillators are quite easy to follow. So I drag the mandolin sample into the sample section here, and I also drag it into the oscillator 1 section, and I choose the vocode mode, which is the one that comes up in the middle. And then if I turn this on, I play an E in my keyboard here, and then I make an LFO to drag up the frame rate so we can cycle through the mandolin. So let's listen to it on its own. If I mute my post-processing as well. Here we go. So it doesn't play all the way through, normally as the mandolin sample sounds. I've controlled the speed myself, and I've done this afterwards after I've added in my sine waves. So it's important to add in the sine waves now already, so you can sort of understand what I'm doing. But one more thing, I put the original sample. I have that in the background, really, really low in the mix, just to kind of fill in a bit of the high end. And I modulate this into oscillator 1, so the sample's going into the synthesized oscillated sample. So we got this nice texture, and now we're going to route this through a harmonic series sine wave, which is really interesting. I'm going to turn down the level of this one and turn this one up. And this is where I get the main movement from. And there's actually, as the LFO goes up, it will actually, I've tracked it to the frame rate here, so the harmonic series sample should actually be affected, but I don't know if it's actually quite going all the way. If I drag this LFO a bit higher, yeah, you'd see it start to move, but I don't quite get to that point, so I don't think it quite activates the harmonic series, so in a sense it's just a sine wave in this case. So, but yeah, that's FM'd, and then the next thing is to FM into another sine wave again. So I love double FMing into sine waves. So I'm going to turn that down, turn this one up, and that's where we get the really nice texture from. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, FM from oscillator 2 then. So bring everything that we've done so far into this last oscillator, and that's the only output. And you can hear where the movement's coming from is from the detuning. So if I had this on 1, pretty standard, like sort of classic, just sine wave tone, but the movement of the whole bass comes from detuning that middle sine wave, with a unison mode, and also a little bit in the actual pitch here. And what I've done is I've done this to the beat now at this point already. So if I was to sort of tune this differently, it's a little bit out of time, the tone is a bit different, but around 20 was really nice here. And another thing is, the movement is also sort of coming from the frame rate from this mandolin, which is on this LFO. So if I change this, it's really going to change the whole movement of the bass again. So if I go back to how it was, nice and simple like this. So the important thing I want to draw attention to in this tutorial is how you can really make a really nice moving bass line by not just like shaping the actual sound, the movement, in a specific, by specifically drawing in an LFO pattern, but it's more from the sort of randomness that happens when you pitch things around. So when you pitch the oscillator a little bit here, and when you cycle through the frame rate a little bit differently, and when you detune it here, these will change the actual speed and the movement, but they'll do it in their own natural way that will have their own sort of tone and characteristic to them. And if you can get that right sort of by ear and sort of track it to your beat to create that kind of rhythm and groove that you want using this method, you'll get much more interesting sound design results. So the next thing I do is just simply enhance the bass a bit, and the sine fold, beautiful in vital, just a little bit of drive. You slam that low end and distort the highs just a slight bit. A little bit of a boost here in the low end to really fill in the gap, and then I've got a bit of compression mixed in, and this is like a saturated signal of noise that I'm mixing in. So at 100% mix, brace yourself. It's chaos, and that's because the attack's all the way up and the release is down, and it's overloaded the whole sound. But if we mix in a bit of that overloaded signal, just a small amount in the background, that's really like bringing up the whole energy of everything. And then I've got one more little trick, which is my filter here. Got like a really overly low pass filter on everything, and I put this on another separate LFO on the mix, so just come in a little bit and filter everything out for a brief moment in time, and that's just creating that like dum dum boom boom boom, like nice little funky like low pass, just little accent, on the whole movement. Literally a tiny bit of reverb, and then that's like the basic demonic Captain Mandolin bass, my G's. And now let's post-process it a bit more. And you don't have to like overly process the sound if you've made it well already, but you can do a couple of little things just to like give it another 5 or 10%. But that's really all you need to add to a lot of sounds. So a little bit, literally 2% of mix on this bandpass noise to give a bit more high end. It's almost like I'm adding an analog noise into the signal, like if the cable's a bit dodgy. That's the effect we're going for there. And then the ruiner, distorting the whole sound with like a overly distorted plugin, but mixing it in on the blend mode. So if I turn it up, a bit too much, but just a little bit. gives a nice crunchy undertone, doesn't it, my G's? And the tone we shape, you know, the exact distortion tone we shape first. You know, we turn it right up. We shape the tone of the distortion with the overdrive, the fold, the saturate, and the doom, and we get a nice blend that sounds cool. Then once we've sort of heard how the distortion sounds, then we mix it in. And I've put modulation on it, so we're mixing the dry wet signal on an LFO, which you can control here, and you can put some noise into it and color it, so it's a little bit random as well, but it's set to the beat, but it's got a bit of a random movement as well, so it's quite natural. But yeah, that's a lovely like distorted tone. And then after that, just a bit of kick side chaining with the LFO tool and a little clipper at the end. And that is the Demonic Captain violin bass, my G's. I hope you enjoy that little video tutorial today. I've got something special coming at the end of this week on Friday, a really special upload I'm looking forward to, so stay tuned. Stay tuned to the channel. Wishing all of you guys a productive week. Make sure you smash your music. You know, make music that's for you. Don't worry about the clout. Don't worry about anyone else. Like you'll become a lot better at making music when you just keep your head down and stay focused and do what you think sounds cool. Hit me up for a lesson if you want to get a little bit of extra inspiration and help me point you in the right direction if you're a bit stuck. I'm really good at getting people unstuck. So happy to help. And have a wicked rest of your week, my G's. I'll try to be back in touch with a couple more tutorials as well. Peace out. Don't do anything I wouldn't, for goodness sake.
Too great.